Okay,
We've got a lot to talk to
yeah.
Diane Guerrero. She's here. We're like debating before the show even starts.
All right, so an immigration debate it's raging across our country right now, but it's very, very personal for actress Diane Guerrero.
It hits close to home.
Yeah, she too was separated from her family. They were deported to Colombia when she was just 14 years old. Guerrero recently gave an emotional speech at the Families Belong Together rally in the nation's capital.
Some 17 years later, I still remember how it felt when I first cried out for my parents and they couldn't answer. I am here as a voice for thousands of children without one. For those who will wake up every day and have to tell themselves they didn't deserve for their parents to be taken from them, that it wasn't their fault. I have days where I want to change the world, and days when I cannot even find the strength to begin. I share my struggle to help.
All right, so the Orange is the New Black Star is sharing her personal story with teenagers, young adults, in a new book. It's called My Family Divided, One Girl's Journey of Loss, Hope, and Home. Diane, nice to have you back on Good Day New York.
Thank you for having me.
So this is sort of the companion book to the original book, but this one is what, geared for younger people?
Yeah, middle graders. Yeah, like for middle school. I just thought it was so important. I always had a vision that this story would be told to children because I myself experienced this as a child, and I know that, I mean, obviously all families are affected. Every member of the family is affected, but children are affected the most. And I think I would have been so much better off if I had a story to relate to. And so that's why I'm so proud of having this book out and having children read it across the nation. And hopefully they can understand what the feeling of what can relate to a family being separated, or if they're going through the same thing.
You talked about also just a minute ago as you were giving the speech that you wanted to change the world. Do you feel as if in some ways, though, through this book, that you really are changing the world, you know, by inspiring or at least sharing? And not often do people open up like this.
You know, in the beginning, like especially with the first book, I would do interviews and I would never want to come back because I would hate talking about this all the time. And I said, what is the point? But you know, as I've grown as a person, as a woman, as an author, and as an activist, I realize, and especially with the young people that I've talked to across the nation, I go to different universities and I bring this book and I talk to different students. It really has changed some lives, and so I do think that by storytelling and continuing to be part of movements like this, immigration rights, you are changing the world. And that's my message to people. It's like, don't think that you yourself can't be part of change. You can be, and you can do it by anyway, joining an organization, telling your story, just supporting with money or your time, whatever it is, you can be a part of that change.
You know, in the book you talk about how difficult it is to talk about this. You said, talking about what happened to my family is difficult after years trying to hide it.
Yeah.
So why open up now, nearly 20 years later? Because growing up, I felt like the only kid who'd ever dealt with having people I loved most in the world snatched away from me.
Yeah.
And your family's still not here.
No. No, and that was an experience that I had because we didn't talk about immigration. That was such a taboo subject.
Why didn't you talk about it? Because you were scared?
You were scared. Also, like in schools, we never really talked. I mean, I started talking about immigration maybe like in college.
What prompted you to start talking about it?
I saw different activists coming out and people coming out with their stories. I saw DACA students speaking out about wanting to stay here and demanding for their rights. And I saw myself as having a responsibility, having the platform that I do with being an actor, and I also just wanted something. I wanted to talk about something with substance, and this is important to talk about. And if I had this experience, it's important for me to share it.
Did you feel as if there were a certain amount of people that you couldn't always trust to look out for your best interests, primarily like lawyers, people who were promising to be able to make things happen but not?
Sure. I mean, that was always a fear of mine because that's all I experienced as a kid, were my parents getting duped by lawyers and like notarios and people who said that they were going to help them, and all I experienced was that. And so when I got older and I would seek out a lawyer, I would go to a meeting and then I would just get scared and leave immediately because I didn't trust anybody. And obviously when you're a young girl in college, you have no money. Everyone's telling you that it's impossible to bring your family back, and so, you know, you just chalk it up to, okay, well then it's never going to happen. And so my way of sort of redeeming my family's story and my story is by doing this work. And I'm still holding on to hope that I can bring my family back one day.
So are you in the process of trying to apply to bring them back? Because they've been gone 20 years, right? It's still difficult, right?
No, yeah, no, not right now, not under this current political climate. Maybe when things change, maybe when we all vote in November, hoping that we all join together and vote for representatives that really care about us.
How can we solve? I mean, I know it hits home to you,
yeah,
but how do we solve this immigration problem? Because,
right,
you know, obviously we want to be welcoming, but at the same time we just can't be flooded. You know what I mean?
Right. No.
How do we do this?
It's not about being flooded. It's not about, it's about changing the system, right? It's an immigration system that is broken. It's not working for anyone. So what do we need? We need immigration reform.
Right.
We need an update of the visa system. The system is broken.
It
so
takes
I would
too
just
long. First of all, it takes too long.
It takes too long,
It
obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, I'm not a politician. I'm not a decision maker, but I know that we haven't tried immigration reform. We've tried to pass it, a immigration reform bill, and time and time and again, it doesn't happen. So I think that we should try there instead of trying to deport 11 million people.
When you see stories like here in New York, where we had the woman who was from Guatemala who was separated from her children, she's now has her children, she's in the Carolinas, but it's mirrored across the country. And then when you see the video of the situation at the border with children being separated,
yeah,
you must have flashbacks.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's terrible. I mean, I think that's why I gave that speech at the Families Belong Together rally. It's because, I mean, even though I wasn't a refugee and I wasn't separated from my family at the border, and I myself was not put in a cage, I know the trauma that a child experiences, that a family experiences from being separated, and it's lifelong damage. Experts say it, psychologists have come out, psychiatrists have come out. I mean, it is real. You don't recover from that, and so I think it's a disservice to the human race to do something like that to a child.
So, I mean, you talk about this. I can't imagine 14, 15, 16, not being able to get a hug from your mom or your dad,
yeah,
or like to tell them, share stories.
Sure.
What was that like? Who did you depend on?
Friends, myself, but throughout that whole time, you know, because I'm not talking about it, because I'm not, you know, talking to a therapist, because I'm not being open, I'm filling myself with all these problems, and that resulted later. And I still deal with that trauma, and that's why I've come out with this book, because the more we talk about it, the more we share our stories, the more we can count on each other for support. Then these children won't feel so alone, like they're carrying this burden like I did. And yeah, it's sad. You don't get to touch your mom or dad. You grow up without seeing them grow. You know, as a child, you kind of just think about yourself and you say, well, my parents aren't seeing me grow and they're not going to my recital, but then you forget that your parents also grow. Right. And they go through changes.
You got mad at them at one point, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
So, like, you didn't understand it, right? Because you were a
Especially
kid.
with your mother. Right?
Of course, you know, I didn't understand why this was happening. And of course, if we're not having healthy conversations about our history, and we're not having healthy conversations about immigration, then all of your blame is going to be on your parents. And of course, your parents always carry blame, and I'm not exempting them from that, but I also didn't understand what this whole thing meant and who really got stuck in the middle. And so, yeah, I was angry with them for a long time, but that's why you go to therapy and figure it out.
Forgive them now, right?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
Now, do you get to go home to visit them?
Oh, yeah. I
Okay.
go to Columbia, but it's like, you know, I'm working all the time. It's hard. You don't see them as often. And it would be so much easier if my mom could come and spend time with me and help me out with stuff when I'm running around, I'm busy. I mean, this is like, now I'm like living out my career, and so now it's time for like mom to be around and like help you out with groceries, and so I miss those things, and I miss the having the comfort of your family. Right.
By the way, I mean, your activism is far-reaching. We need to have you back on so you can talk about your podcast and feminism and Me Too moments and Time Out.
Yeah, because it's all connected, right? It's all, I mean, we all have to be intersectional, and this is all related, and that's what I learned throughout this process, is that I'm not just fighting for immigration reform. I'm not just fighting for families to stay together. I'm fighting for everyone. I care about everyone and everything, so I will be there standing by every movement that is coming about. Any social injustice that is happening around the world, I am supportive of.
That's a big
I'm
weight
supporting
to carry.
people who are trying to change things, not supportive of social injustice. That's not it.
Do you still live in Boston? Where do you live?
I lived in Boston. I grew up in Boston.
You were born in Boston, right?
I was born in Jersey.
You were born in Jersey.
That's right, girl. Passaic. Passaic, New Jersey.
And where's home now?
LA, New York is kind of like wherever the gig is. Wherever the gig is, you know, wherever the bag lands.
Well, it's always great to have you here.
An event tonight, 7 p.m. at the Strand Bookstore.
Yes.
828 Broadway.
Yeah, I hope parents bring their children. I would love to share this story with as many people as I can. And the book is about my life, and it's not all. It's it's also funny. It's also relatable.
It's a beautiful book.
Yeah.
And I love the pictures too.
Thank you. Yeah, I added more pictures.
And the illustration on the front is pretty too.
Yeah.
All right. Nice to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
And Orange is. I just want to get it out of the way. Orange is the new Black United in the new season.
In this one coming up?
Yeah.
No.
And this one coming up, maybe.
I was on Superior Donuts.
Superior Donuts
for like a year,
right?
Which got canceled. Boo-hoo.
I know there'll be another project around the corner.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, then. Thank you.